Hello everyone, this is Aaron from Ohio Bar Hop. I'm coming to you from downtown Columbus today at the State Capitol building. Yesterday, Governor DeWine threw a press conference with his top medical advisors, and he wanted the state to hear from them about the current situation of COVID-19 across Ohio. He made a very big effort at the beginning of the press conference to praise them up and talk about them and how valuable they are to his policymaking. So I want you to hear what the governor had to say about them at the intro of the press conference yesterday.
At the beginning of the pandemic in the spring, we met with the Ohio Hospital Association and came up with something that I don't think's been done in Ohio before, and that is really pulling hospitals together, provide clinical, medical, and hospital administrative guidance to my team. So they have been, these three lead hospitals, three lead doctors have been very valuable to us. And I talk with them very, very frequently.
As you can tell by the way the governor was speaking there, that these are very important people to him, and he is saying to us that he is basing his policy decisions on what they are telling him. He says he is frequently in contact with them and statuses with them quite often. So what exactly did they say during the press conference yesterday about the bar and restaurant industry and the problems that are occurring in our state in regard to COVID? I want you to hear directly from the doctors now what they had to say about COVID and Ohio's bars.
And, you know, several people have asked about the lockdowns in the question. I appreciate that. But I would like people to remember that when the virus was first introduced into our community, we didn't know much about, we didn't have the testing, we didn't understand the epidemiology, we really didn't know where it was. And so we used instruments that were very effective, but, blunt. We now know a lot more. And, the spread isn't happening in the schools and the businesses and the bars like it was initially. It's happening in the everyday life. And
I think the spread is not happening in bars and restaurants because the vast majority of bars and restaurants are taking this seriously. Separating tables, putting in plexiglass, staff are wearing masks, patrons are wearing masks when they're up and around the bars and restaurants. Many of you from the media hear from Mashika Roberts, our local Columbus Health Commissioner. And what Dr. Roberts will share is she thinks 95% of the bars and restaurants are doing this right and making sure that their patrons are following the rules. So that's why bars and restaurants are working, is because most of them are following the rules. Without
I hope you understand what was just said about our industry. They made it very clear how they feel about the bar and restaurant industry in regards to COVID. They said at the very beginning of this pandemic that we were using very blunt tools like the lockdown. They were effective at stopping the spread of COVID, but they were also doing some very devastating things. And since then, we have learned so much more about this, and they even said that the bars and restaurants are not the problem right now. So in that 95% of the bars and restaurants across the state are doing the right thing. So why are we still in this 10 p.m. lockdown? It really does not make any sense. Now, throughout the rest of the press conference, reporters, when they got a chance to ask them questions, they were firing questions at them about further lockdowns, and the press almost seemed to be goading the doctors into agreeing that we should lock the economy down further. At one point in the press conference, a reporter asked the panel of doctors what they thought about further lockdowns, especially in regards to where the governor says the spread is coming from, social gatherings like weddings and funerals, and this is what they had to say about that.
Hi, this is a question for Rhonda Lehman and anybody else who would want to chime in. At this point, are you ready to, at a very minimum, ask the governor to start making some additional restrictions? Everybody keeps talking about weddings and funerals. Are we ready to make some changes in the allowable number of people who are permitted to attend weddings and funerals? If that is the problem, why are we not addressing the problem?
Well, I think in some ways we've addressed that question through some of the other ones previous to this about having authority to enact some of those things. I think that really that we are at the right spot, and as far as requesting that the public really engages with us and sees this as a problem that they can fix. I don't necessarily think that putting those numbers on those different events is going to be the answer, because short of going in people's basements, right, or going to the places that they're gathering after that, which is really what we're looking for that support from. So I don't necessarily think that that is our place today to go and look at limiting some of those different numbers. I think we are where we need to be right now, and that's requesting that our different communities be more responsible, whatever that looks like. We've given them those tools. As I said before, it's simple, it's not challenging, and it's something that we can all comply with.
This is very important here. These doctors are not even advocating for further lockdown or government regulations or limitations on gatherings in the areas that the governor says are the hottest spots for spread of COVID right now. They are asking the public to act like adults and for personal responsibility. This is something that I've been advocating for from the very beginning. The mandating from the government to shut down bars and restaurants in mass numbers when most of us are complying is absolutely ridiculous, and it's senseless, and all it is doing is killing a lot of our jobs right now. So if this is what they are telling the governor, why are we still under a 10 p.m. curfew? Is he even listening to his own advisors at this point? To me, it seems like the governor is not listening to his own advisors, and that he is stuck in this mode of we must keep locked down, we must keep bars and restaurants closed. And I've said this argument before. I think it's because we're a very good scapegoat for the public to look at and say, yeah, that's clearly where the problem is, when even his own experts right now are saying that's not what the problem is. Remember that on October 20, Governor DeWine did a press conference, and he was asked about the bars and restaurants and if we were going to look at reopening them. And if you haven't seen the video yet from a couple of weeks ago that I posted, this was his remarks on October 20.
Side note, do you still plan on addressing the last call for bars and restaurants this week?
Yeah, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do the bars and restaurants, sadly. I understand. I've talked to bar owners, restaurant owners, and I understand what's at stake for them. But with these numbers going crazy, we can't do this now. So I hope in the future we'll be able to lift those hours, but we're not going to. It would be, in my opinion, very irresponsible at this point for a governor to do this. So we gotta start getting those numbers, down.
As I've reported on several times here, the governor is not listening to his advisors. He's not listening to even reasonable common sense at this point, especially when it comes to the bar and restaurant industry. We are doing what we are supposed to be doing, and he is ignoring this issue that is devastating the lives of hundreds of thousands of Ohioans here. The 10 p.m. curfew is currently scheduled to expire on November 28th because he can only pass a 120-day order. But do not put it past him at this point to try to reissue another order. Maybe it'll be earlier, 8 or 9 o'clock curfew. Maybe it'll be a little later, an 11 or 12 o'clock curfew. But watch for him to try to change the order significantly enough so that he can get another 120 days out of another order without oversight process. This is why I've been telling you guys from the very beginning that the legislation here in the State House is extremely important at this point. The bill in the Senate and the House to end the 10 p.m. curfew are still relevant and still very important. What those bills will aim to do is end this curfew for bars and restaurants and reinstitute the hours that we are permitted on our liquor licenses as liquor license holders in the state of Ohio. And even if this legislation goes through after that November 28th expiration date, what it will do is it will ensure that this does not happen to our industry again. And that is so important at this point, that we do not allow this to happen to our industry again. So as always, folks, my task for you is to contact your state representative, Contact your state senator. Tell them that you support the legislation that is going to end the 10 p.m. curfew. Contact Speaker of the House Robert Cupp's office and Senate President Larry Obhoff's office and tell them that you support this legislation and that we need to get these bills into committee. The General Assembly is just coming back from its recess after the election here, and they're coming into their lame duck session. This is a chance for us to get this legislation through to prevent this from going on further past November 28 if the governor tries to pull another fast one on us here. We need this legislation to pass, and we need the bipartisan veto-proof majority, which I actually believe that both chambers do have at this point. So get on your phones and emails, as always, folks, and contact them. As usual, I am happy to be an advocate for the bar and restaurant industry, and I'm happy to advocate on behalf of you if you are suffering in this industry because of the 10 p.m. curfew or the excessive regulations being put on our industry. If you're a worker in the service industry right now and you're hurting because of the 10 p.m. curfew, if you're out of work, underemployed right now, things like that, I want to share your story as well. So please get a hold of me. You can reach me right here on social media. You can email me at ohiobarhop@gmail.com, and you can also call me on my direct phone line at 614-290-7375. So please get a hold of me. I want to represent you. I'm going to be on top of this issue all week, guys. I'm going to be following what the General Assembly is doing with these bills, and I will report back to you as soon as I have any more information. Until then, folks, have a wonderful evening, and I will see you all soon.